Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, you mean the
two? The YouTube you were pulling up, make sure it's muted or it will start.
Yeah.
Sound that everybody will hear.
Of course. Okay. Okay.
Pricing was hard to get because the MacBook Pro 14 is on the site now.
It's all right. There we go. I'm just going to play it on this one so we can see it. Okay. Can everyone hear me? It's good to see everyone today. So let's just wait to see if we get some comments that everyone can hear me. Test, test, test. Yep, audio is up. We should be good. So can people hear me? Colin, would you mind just testing in there that you can hear me?
Yeah.
Can you?
I'm checking now.
I'll move across a little bit. All right, so people can hear me? Yeah. All right, guys, so we are live. Yes, thank you, Angel, for confirming. So you got me for the next, let's say, hour to hopefully talk, well, not hopefully, we're going to talk a little bit about the Mac event we just watched. I'm going to share my thoughts and yeah, just if you have any other questions about laptops, now is the time to ask them. You can put them in the chat window. And just an FYI, you know, before I get into the main video, sorry.
You're saying sound is low, you want me to turn it up?
Sound is low? Okay, give us a second, we'll turn up the sound. Audio sounds good. No, it's a little bit low, but just only a little, so don't pump it too much. So just a heads up, guys, about where we are right now. Obviously, we look like absolute idiots when we launched the video last week saying the Mac buying guide, and then Apple on the same day told people they were going to have this event. But where we are right now is we're heavily testing 16-inch laptops. As you guys would know, we pretty much tested like crazy every 14-inch laptop out there. We've got a lot of videos on them. Our 16-inch coverage should start, I would say, probably Monday next week, and we have some really, really, really big videos coming. We have, I can't tell you enough, guys, every major 16-inch laptop is here. We've been testing them like crazy, so that's a little bit about where we're at. But now that we've let people join, I think we can get into the main topic. Jared is here from Jared's Tech. Good to see you, mate. My fellow Australian. Yeah, we can get into the main content. So, interesting event, guys. Interesting event. Still trying to get my, thoughts around it. The first thing I think we need to look at is the state of really where the M2, M2 Pro, M2 Max chips was prior to this launch. And I'm saying M2, not M3. So realistically, they were kind of falling behind Intel in terms of performance. Obviously, blowing Intel and AMD away in terms of performance per watt, particularly at low power draws. So they had much better battery life, much better, almost no fan noise for most things, unless you're really running very, very high performance tasks on them. Very good battery life, as I said, very little heat as well. So that was their advantage. And that's great for many, many people, including myself. That was an absolute huge, and still is a huge advantage. But on the performance side, going into this, they were really falling behind. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of a graph here that we just put together for you guys. And obviously, we've had literally half an hour to prepare for this. So it's not quite as much as we would normally do. But I just wanted to show you some graphs here. So here is the MacBook Pro 14 with M2, okay? So keep this in mind, and we're going to talk about Apple had their numbers in terms of performance increase, and they were a little bit naughty, as they always are. They said, M1 to M3. They didn't cover so much M2 to M3, even though it was listed there, but they called out that. So what you're seeing here is take a look at the MacBook Pro 14, and there's the 10-core and 12-core model that we had. You can see in terms of CPU performance, single core, you see just how much lower it is than what we were seeing on some of the Intel ones. Yep.
Did you switch the screen? We don't see it on screen.
Oh, sorry. Apologies, guys. I'm being a little bit silly here. So let me just switch this for us. So here you can see. You guys can see this? The graph's okay?
There's a delay, so we'll have to wait a second.
Okay, so hopefully everyone can see it. Oh, I'm just waiting. Give me just 2 seconds. Just waiting for it to come up on the I know there's a little bit of a delay here. All right. So what you can see here on the graph, and again, we just rushed these out the door, but you can see here that in single core performance, you're looking at about 1,600 in Cinebench. really around that kind of range. But when you go down, and apologies guys, we don't have AMD listed here, but they're a little bit behind Intel in single core, but higher than the Mac. You'll see here Intel is doing 1,800, 2,000 on their latest 13th gen. So Apple is, you know, reasonably behind Intel in terms of single core. And then when you take a look at multi-core, 11,700, so that's about 12,000 points, 15,000 points, but you can see really quite far behind Intel. Like look at this Legion Slim 7i with the i7, the i9-13900H processor, almost 20,000 points. You know, Intel has these HX processors, which is their, you know, highest wattage processors with 30,000 points. So, you know, the state of play prior to tonight's announcement on the M3 is really Apple was absolutely leading, particularly in low wattage, and they had enough performance for most people, low fan noise, heat, and good battery life, but they were quite far behind when you're talking about performance, CPU performance I'm talking about here. So, you know, when we take a look at the slides that Apple released tonight, just give me a second, I'm going to bring them up for you. Let's go back. So now let's have a look at what we had with their release. That's rendering performance. Sorry guys, I took these really, really fast. But I have some drill downs of the actual processors. 2 seconds, I think they're here. Yeah, here's the processor details. Okay. So when we think about, here's M3 Max. Actually, this is, yeah, okay. They listed here down the bottom, you can see 20% faster than M2 Max. Okay, so we're at 1,600 points in Cinebench. Let's pretend that gets up to an extra, what is that, 320 points. It's going to be pretty much neck and neck with Intel in terms of single core, assuming what Apple says here is true. So I'm using that 20% number, right? And then on the M3 Pro, 10% faster than M2 Pro. So that's probably still going to be a little bit behind Intel, I'd say, in terms of performance. Okay, so I think what we're going to see here from the release in terms of just, we're talking about raw CPU performance, I think we're going to see, you know, a little bit of a step forward. It's kind of going to be a little bit of a catch-up game to Intel, but I do not expect anyone who's wanting really powerful CPU performance, I cannot see this catching Intel in terms of multi-core performance. Now, obviously, you guys know, you've been watching my channel for a while, that doesn't mean the performance that Intel is giving is worth that performance because you're going to get a lot of heat and fan noise, but if you are looking for the ultimate CPU performance, I can't see it catching Intel, particularly in multi-core for the high-powered H series or HX. Same goes with AMD, by the way. So that's my point on CPU performance. Now, I wanted to talk about some little naughty things that we noticed as well, very naughty things. So first of all, and you guys have put this in the comments, and I'm going to bring this up on the side screen here, just 2 seconds. If we go to Apple's page here, okay, what you're going to see here, and I know there's a bit of delay for you guys, we're going to go and have a look here, okay, because this is really, really important what I'm about to tell you, okay. So here we've got MacBook Pros, and I'm going to go down and let's take a look at the tech specs, which are here. Okay. So, in M2 land, we had 100 was it megabytes or megabits? What am I going crazy? Gigabytes. Okay. So, memory bandwidth, let's talk about that. Okay. First of all, in M2 land, the base M2s had 100 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. The M2 Pros had 200, and the M2 Maxes had 400. Now, have a look at this. The M3s have 100, so same there. But M3 Pro is now down to 150 gigabytes of bandwidth, where before it was 200, so it's less bandwidth, okay? And this is, I think, quite important. When you go and have a look at M3 Max, right, now you're talking about 300 gigabytes of bandwidth, where before it was 400, and if you look further, you only get the 400 gigabytes of bandwidth if you get the highest end M3 Max CPU. Now, for certain people, memory bandwidth is going to be majorly important. I've talked about this before in my memory video. It's not just about how much memory you have, it's how quickly it can be accessed. So in the case of this YouTube channel, right, and we're a professional YouTube studio and a production house, when we go to export our videos, it's a very memory bandwidth intensive task as well as how much memory you have, but it's predominantly memory bandwidth. So when you think about this, right, 200 to 400, it's flat out double the speed, right? When we were to go before M2 Pro to M2 Max, it was twice as fast to do a render because you're going from 200 gigabytes to 400. Now, if you start to do that render on a M3 Pro chip, it's only 150 gigabytes, which is, you know, a little more than a third the speed of what you get with the M3 Max, the highest end one. So where I'm going with this one is anyone who's doing memory bandwidth intensive tasks like video editors, they're kind of forcing you to buy this higher end M3 Max chip now, where before you could get away with the lower end M3 Max chip. So it's a little naughty in that they kind of, I presume, and maybe one of the guys could check this, just 2 seconds. Maybe Colin, could you just check this about if they've bumped up the price for, what was the price of the M2 Max, the lower end one, versus now the M3 Max, the higher end one? But my gut is Colin's just going to check the price, is they're kind of forcing now video editors or people who are memory bandwidth intensive to buy this higher end processor, just purely by that. So that's something I want you guys to be aware of. Then obviously let's state the obvious. Sorry, I can't believe I just said that. What a weird thing to say. Okay, so let's have a look at this because I think this is what a lot of people are pointing out, and I hear you. They made this huge announcement tonight that they've lowered the price of the M3, the MacBook Pro 14, lowered it, right, to this crazy starting price of $1,599. But as you have seen, 8 gig of memory. I can't swear on this channel, but boy, I'm going to go swear in the corridor after this. 8 gig of memory for $1,599. That is disgraceful. Now, I want to also point out something to you guys. Apple is different to a lot of PC laptops. If you have a dedicated graphics card in the PC space, right, it has different memory. In the Apple space, we're talking unified memory here. It's shared between graphics and PC. So that means an 8 gig PC with a separate dedicated graphics, let's say a low end one like a 3050 that might be paired with an 8 gig of memory computer, it's still got its own separate memory for the dedicated graphics. Here, that 8 gig has to be shared with the graphics. 8 gig of memory at this price in 2023, at the end of 2023 going to 2024, is an absolute disgrace. I'm sorry, it is. It's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And I just am nobody. If any of my viewers buy this with 8 gig of memory, I mean, I will unsubscribe you myself. That is just not good. That is really, really not good. Sorry, Taylor's laughing in the corridor. But yeah, no, that's just, it's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. And when we go in here, let's see how much it is to get with 16 gig of memory, right? So we come in here, now we're talking about 16 gig of memory is $200 more. So you're now talking about a starting price, and that's a custom config, by the way. We've talked about this in my Apple video. If you buy custom configs, generally you don't get discounts because a lot of the resellers of Apple products, you'll see them at Best Buy and places like that, they're constantly dropping the price by $200 off the base model. But if you go a custom config like this, you often have to order it from Apple. So you're missing out on the $200 discount that like a Best Buy would offer. And then you have to pay another $200 to get 16 gig of memory. So now you're talking about $1,800 for 16 gig of memory. I mean, folks, for that kind of price, I believe you can buy a Slim Pro 9i with an RTX 4060, 32 gig of memory. Yes, it is an Intel processor. Yes, the performance will destroy this, but the battery life will suck compared to this. But still, I mean, you've got to be thinking twice about buying this for that kind of price, $1,800. This is not good. The other thing of note as well is you'll probably notice they've got rid of the MacBook Pro, the 13-inch. This is the base model now. The biggest issue I have with this model is just the memory. It is so disgraceful. It's an insult to be offering it for this much. Thank you, Danielle, for that nice comment from Mexico. Josh, your videos are great. Really appreciate it. In fact, I probably should be checking the comments. Apologies, guys. I'm just going off a little bit at the moment. Someone mentioned the colors. We've already ordered 4, which was a little bit extreme. And we did order the black model in both the 14 and the 16, as well as the silver. I personally prefer the silver. They did specifically mention that the black model is not the same as the midnight black from the MacBook Air, because that midnight black model just gets fingerprints like crazy, and they specifically called out a coating to apparently help against fingerprints. We shall see that when they come in. The other thing I think we haven't touched upon is the ray tracing. They claimed a lot about their graphics improvements in this video. Look, guys, we just don't know what we don't know, and it's going to be very hard to test ray tracing on it versus PC laptops, because the main ray tracing benchmark, which is Port Royal by 3D Mark, that doesn't even run on Macs at all. So it's going to be a little bit challenging for us to test that and see. And in terms of gaming, you know, look, guys, let's call a spade a spade. It's going to take game developers. They have to port to this system. And when you're a developer and you're thinking, hey, 95% of the market is on PC Windows laptops, or do I want to pay a huge amount to natively build, you know, natively develop for Mac? There's not a lot of money in it, right? So I think it's nice that they're bringing this hardware to market. I just think it's going to take time for the developers to build this and invest in it, in the platform. So, you know, overall, I would wrap my thoughts on M3, and I'm going to answer people's questions as it's definitely an improvement. I think, let me just check pricing actually. It's definitely an improvement, particularly in the CPU department, and also obviously the GPU. It's definitely an improvement. And that's welcome, because certainly performance-wise, they were falling quite far behind Intel and AMD in the CPU department. I'm talking the CPU performance particularly here. But I do think it makes them more relevant in that performance side. But it is going to be a lot of the similar story we've seen before, right? If you don't want fan noise, you don't want a hot filling laptop, then Apple is going to be the way to go, right? Right now, and I'm telling you this flat out, we've been testing a bunch of these 16-inch laptops. We've just finished a bunch of the 14-inch. I'm talking about Windows here as well as Mac. That is the big determining factor when you think about even a gaming laptop. I know my buddy Jared from Jared's Tech is on here. You know, the biggest thing you notice between great laptops and terrible ones is how hot they feel, how loud the fan noise gets, and all of that. That's really what it's about. And then generally, I would say it's about, is the laptop an all-round good laptop, right? Does it have good keyboard, good set speakers, etc.? And those two parts, which is talking about the efficiency of the processor, heat, fan noise, battery life, Apple is still going to dominate. You know, hopefully, we'll touch wood, we'll see what Intel 14th Gen comes. But Apple is still going to dominate that for the time being, and they've played a little bit of catch-up on the CPU side. And then in terms of all-round device quality, Apple still has, you know, all-round fantastic devices quality. Now, on the device itself, very little new things were announced. Honestly, I think the only thing I heard was it is going to be a 600 nit screen for standard content. So there will be the standard content on the MacBook Pro 14 and 16 will be brighter, which will match the external XDR display. So when you're looking back and forwards between your external display and the laptops, it'll be the same brightness consistency. But that was the only change I heard. Everything else is the same. So it really comes down, that's the positives. And then the negatives, obviously, 8 gig of memory model. They've nuked, they've really, I wouldn't say nuked, but they've made the memory bandwidth less for a lot of the processors, which really sucks. On the flip side though, you do get more memory with them. So let me just show you this, for instance. So on the bigger Macs, let me show you this one. So if we come here, we're going to choose the M3 Pro. You'll see now you're starting with 18 gig of memory, unified memory, not 16. So that's positive, where before for $2,000, you got 16 gig of memory, right? So that's a positive. And then on the 16-inch, on the M3 Maxes, let's come across the 16-inch. Particularly on, here's the Max chip on the far right. Now you're talking about, it starts 36 gig of memory instead of 32. And when you go to configure it, this I do like, what I'm about to show you, is if you do pay the $300 extra for the 40-core GPU model, this time it gives you 2 extra CPU cores, which it didn't before. Before it gave you, both of these were 12-core CPUs. So for $300 extra, now you're getting a bit more, right? You're getting this 2 extra CPU cores, which is great, as well as the extra GPU cores. And now you get 48 gig of memory, not before it was, it didn't change memory when you upgraded, but the upgrade was only $100. So for $200, you're getting an extra 2 CPU cores. You're also getting more memory. And so that's a lot that I've said. Let me just see some of the comments. All right. So yeah, a lot of comments about the 8 gigs being atrocious. I think I've talked about that a lot already. Yeah, someone said buy a refurbished 14-inch MacBook Pro. I think that's, again, one of the best things that has come of tonight is refurbished MacBook Pro 14 M1s are going to be really cheap, which is great, and even M2s, which are going to be really cheap. In fact, I have a 32 gig of memory, 2 terabyte M2 Pro, MacBook Pro 14 M2 Pro with 32 gig of memory, 2 terabytes. Honestly, I'm thinking of keeping it and not bothering to upgrade my personal one to the M3. We will upgrade our 16-inch, which we're using right now to actually broadcast this. We will upgrade that to the M3 because that's the one we actually render our videos from. So we kind of really, we're at 32 gig of memory. We're starting to have memory issues because our videos are massive now. So I will upgrade that. But the 14-inch, you know, to what someone was saying, it makes some of these older ones, which are still excellent, cheaper. You know, look, guys, I want to be clear. You know, a lot of viewers of mine and viewers in general, you don't need the CPU performance in the M1 is fine. The CPU performance in the M2 is a little snappier than the M1, but you don't need much more than that, right? And, you know, a cheaper laptop with, you know, that has the long battery life and I'm talking about the M2, the older version has the less fan noise, less heat. It's still great, right? So a lot of people, it's just made that one cheaper, which is good. Does the M3 look like it will be, so this is great SIF, does the M3 look like it'll be more efficient, mainly thermally, or is it negligible compared to the M2? You know, look, there was a change in the lithography. I believe it's down 4 nanometers. Did I read it correctly? I've taken a screenshot of it. 3 is, I'm being corrected here in the studio. So yes, I would expect to be a little bit more efficient for sure, but I wouldn't expect it to be massive. I wouldn't expect it to be the difference from like Intel to M1, for instance, which was a huge change, or AMD Zen 4 to, AMD Zen when that came out. It's not like a completely redesigned thing. What do I think of the iMac? Thoughts on the iMac? Look, I'll be honest, guys. You know, this is obviously we predominantly cover laptops here. We're actually starting to cover all-in-ones. You know, the iMac is nice. Let's see the pricing, because you guys are asking me about it. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to bring up the pricing. All right. And I have a great one that I've got a video on coming out this week, actually. So let's order now and have a look at it. So for the iMac, we've got the same problem with 8 gig of memory at very expensive prices, which is pretty embarrassing. Do you guys have a question for me?
No.
Okay, that's fine. If you do, just let me know. So 8 gig of memory, that worries me a lot. You know, I'm going to talk about a computer that we've got, an all-in-one that we've done a review on coming out this week that is kind of a special one. It's really cool. It has 8 gig of memory too, and it's a PC one, but it's $9.99. And it's really cool. It has some benefits over this one. I won't announce what it is because it's going to be out on Wednesday. So check Wednesday morning. It should be out Eastern time. You know, it's got 8 gig of memory too, right? But it costs $9.99, and because it's a PC one, you'll probably find it on sale, I would presume, for $200 off for $800. You know, at this kind of price, I don't love, and this one doesn't even have you can see it doesn't have USB. It's missing some USB ports, missing some Ethernet. You know, to be charging this kind of price for 8 gig of memory, I don't love it, honestly. I think 8 gig of memory, it does work completely well for browsing the internet, that kind of stuff. You can do some light programming. People will argue that you can do full programming on it. Of course you can, but you know, assuming that you're not using a lot of coding applications and what you're coding is actually really small. But 8 gig of memory, honestly, today I don't love it. I don't. Taylor, would you mind grabbing the water from the other room? Thanks, mate. Yeah. Sorry. So that kind of worries me. I think if you're going to buy one, you really need to configure it to 16 gig, and you know, then $1,700, guys. It's a lot. This is a lot. I would take a look at the one we've got coming. You know, that we're going to review on Wednesday. And we got to understand, folks. A lot of the benefits of Apple's M series chip is the efficiency of the processor in terms of performance per watt, right? That benefits devices that aren't plugged in, right? Predominantly. So we're talking about laptops here. When you're talking about a desktop, like this one that's plugged into the wall, you don't see the full benefits of it. Of course, it's nice to have less power draw, but you don't see that full benefit. So this I don't love. I would say it looks nice. It looks pretty. I know there's some people who buy it for that reason, but I don't love this. I think, you know, at the height, look, here's what I love the announcement for. I think if you're walking in the door to spend, what was it, 2,000, let's go back to the Mac announcement, the actual pricing of the MacBook Pros. Here's what I like what we're seeing for, okay, just so you know. If you're in our situation, you're doing serious video editing, right, at a very, very high level, this is going to give us more performance, right? I like that. You get more memory out the gate, and it's expensive. You know, it's $4,000 for this model, but you get more performance, you get more memory, and I think when I bought our one, I'm just trying to think of the pricing before. You know, I think it's good for someone like that. I think also if you're buying a base model, a 14-inch, and you're spending, you know, $2,000 like you were before, you're now getting 18 gig of memory versus the 16 before. I believe now you're getting one extra CPU core. So I think this model is very good, the $2,000 model here. This one I like. And clearly that's better than before. M3 is going to be faster. You got one extra core. You got 2 extra gig of memory for the same price. So I think that one is good. I like that one there, the M3 Pro one, okay? I don't like the pure M3 ones, as I said, with 8 gig of memory. Just ignore them. That's just ridiculous. And then, yeah, so I think someone buying these models, I think it's good. I think this is a good step forward from what we saw before. These are the models that really should be bought here. And then I'd say on the Mac side, I would ignore, to be honest, the lower end Max chips. And the reason I say that, let me go to the 16-inch version. The reason I would say ignore the lower end Max one is A, unlike before, it comes with less memory included. And B, as I said, you've actually got less memory bandwidth. This is 300 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, the cheaper one, and 400 on the higher. So I'd stick to those models, the higher end 16-inch with the Max chip, or the base models of the MacBook Pro 14 with the M3 Pro chip. I think those are good. Again, I'd be worried about, like with the M2 Max ones, I'd be worried about upgrading this right through to the Max chip, the M3 Max that is. So I'm referring to if you come in here and then you added the Max chip with it, I'd be worried about that because we all know from the M2 Max, the 14-inch, it doesn't have the cooling solution of the 16-inch, and you're probably wasting huge amounts of money, like $700, when you're not going to get the full performance out of that processor. So those are the models I'd stick to. Obanana asks, what software will emerge that maximizes those features? Obviously, we're hoping to see some more gaming with the ray tracing. That would be great. But I don't see that happening in the near term. As I said before, many more gamers are available on the PC world. So, you know, game developers are going to prioritize that space versus the Mac. So it's probably a slow run to get them over to the Mac. You're probably going to start with more casual games, which you see on the Mac a lot more these days, right? People who are just using the Mac for work or home use, and then they just play a little casual games on the side. You'll probably see those evolving with ray tracing and things like that, versus, you know, heavily competitive AAA titles being massively ported en masse from the PC to the Mac. Because as I said, the game is the addressable market just isn't there. Okay, when will all 16-inch laptop videos come out? Lightning, what a great question. So we've been working like crazy on our 16-inch content, but since I'm here live and I'm getting a bit bored of talking about the Macs, feel free to ask any questions about 16-inch laptops, PC or Mac. Our content will start, I would say, and I'm being the guys here in the room and next door can keep me honest, I think probably Monday we'll start hitting the ground running with our 16-inch content. So we've got some really big videos coming, a lot of them. I mean, we've got everything here. Everything. From the Legion 9, we got that. We got both the 7i Legions, the AMD and the Intel one. For 16-inch, I'm talking about, we got the 16-inch Legion 5. We got a bunch of Asus. We got the M16. We got the Strix Scar 16, that sort of thing. Andres asked, full M3 versus base M2 Pro. I would definitely get the base M2 Pro. You're talking full M3. I believe it has less memory bandwidth than the M2 Pro, so you got to factor that in. I wouldn't spend the money upgrading the M3 with, say, 16 gig of memory. The base model M3 I'm referring to, the MacBook Pro 4, it's this one the guy he's talking about. So I come here. He's talking about this model here, the M3. I would not, it comes with 8 gig. I would not spec this up with more memory. Honestly, guys, by that stage, you should buy the M3 Pro with the 16 gig of memory. These are the models, or it's 18 gig of memory now. These are the models that you should be buying, okay? These ones. These are the M3 Pro ones. I like these ones. And once again, as I said, I don't like upgrading the 14-inch to the Max chip. We've seen it time and time again. It underperforms in the 14-inch, or if it does perform the same, the 14-inch has louder fan noise and more heat because the fans have to work overtime to kind of cool that processor. So M3 Pros, 14-inch M3 Pros, I like both of these base models here, and I think do not buy them from Apple. Please, please buy them from a retailer. Black Friday is coming. You're going to find these $200 off. The only people who should be buying these laptops tonight, base models, is myself, Max Tech, and a bunch of other YouTubers. No one else should be buying these because these base models are going to go on sale over Black Friday, okay? Nobody should be crazy enough to buy these. The only other people who should be buying M3 laptops today is the ones who are doing the custom configs because they don't tend to really go on sale over Black Friday, so those people are safe to buy. So these two base models, but wait for Black Friday, and then the M3 Max, I do not buy this one, okay? You should be buying, and this, sorry, apologies, is the 14-inch. On the 16-inch, the other one I like for the M3 Max is the full high-end Max CPU. And the reason I like that, again, I'm just repeating what I said earlier, you get 2 extra CPU cores, which you didn't before for just $300. Before it was $100 difference, but you didn't get any CPU core difference. You get faster memory bandwidth. This is 400 gigabytes versus 300. I'm referring to M3 Max, this one versus this one, the 30 core versus the 40. And you get more memory. You get 48 gig included. So this one I like as well, but this is a custom config. So this is safe to buy tonight because you probably won't see this going much on sale. Okay, next one. What I thought on the Razer Blade 14. Ethan's laughing here when I mentioned that one. Look, guys, it's okay. You know, I can't remember, there's a scoring sheet. If you look at my best 14-inch laptop video, there's a scoring sheet attached. I believe we've changed some of the scores a little bit from the video, listening to your feedback. We always do. Blade 14, I don't think there's enough in it to warrant the monstrous price jump from the Legion Slim 514 or the Asus G14. I would much prefer you save the $1,000 difference between those two and just buy one of those other ones. There's just not enough in it. It's hard to compare it to those two because there's different pros and cons. Please watch that video. The Blade 14 is in that video. I've gone through every single part of it to score it, okay? It's just not worth that difference. The only 14-inch gaming laptops, and Jared, feel free to comment, my friend, is the Legion Slim 514 or the Asus G14. Okay. The base M3 MacBook Pro, hello, asks about that. These are the ones I said I like. I'm talking about the 14-inch. These are the ones that I would consider safe to buy, but do not buy them tonight. I would assume you'll get $200 off them. So I'm talking about the M3 Pro models for the 14-inch. I like them. I think they're much better than they were last night when these were similar prices with only 16 gig of memory and 10 cores and 12 cores. So I like them a lot. But the only thing is of note, these are now 150 gigabytes memory bandwidth, which is naughty. Before they were 200, so that's naughty. So they've nuked you there, cut back there. But I do like them. I would just wait for Black Friday to see if you can get them $200 off. I don't want you buying them for these prices. Okay, silver or space black? Don't know. We've got the Midnight Black, which is the MacBook Air's black version here. It doesn't look great. I don't like it. I would keep the silver. That's my 2 cents. Is the best Mac for programmers going to be the base model M3 Pro? I would say so. The 14-inch M3 Pro. I think that's, yeah, and this is why it depends what you're coding. Any good coder is going to know this. Whether you need 128 gig of memory, which these offer of RAM, whether you need 400 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, or whether you need 100, it depends on what you are coding. There's no simple answer, but I think in general, yes, these two models will be the best ones to get for coders. Either they're the best pricing, you'll see them for $200 off. We've seen these rotating sales all the time from retailers. Best Buy, etc., Amazon, wait for you see them on sale and then buy them. And yes, I think these two will continue to be the coding laptops of choice. Plenty of CPU performance, good step up from before. I don't think you're going to be as memory bandwidth dependent because this is 150 versus 200. I don't know if you guys saw this before, but they nuked the memory bandwidth. I talked about that earlier in the video in today's stream. Here we go. So if you look here under tech specs, you'll notice memory bandwidth down here and the M3 Pro chip. Look at this, guys, 150 gigabytes. It used to be 200, so they've nuked it. But for coders, I don't think most coders are going to be that concerned about this. So it'll be a bit of extra CPU performance, yay, and a little bit of extra memory for the same price. So I think it's good.
One question that I saw was interesting.
Okay.
He said something about there being reduced memory usage, and I think I remember them mentioning that. So maybe that's the reason for them lowering the memory bandwidth, and I don't really think it justifies it. But
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah. So whether the more efficient memory usage or something like that is going to help reduce the need for memory. They talked about that. They talked about, okay, I know the graph you're talking about. They talked about how you assign memory, okay? And they talked about it being more dynamic, and this was particularly on the graphics side, okay? So when you're coding on the non-graphic side, this was already a normal thing, right? You just choose them. You don't pre-assign some. It depends on the application. The application can add memory or remove memory, right? And they talk about on the graphics side now, they're doing a similar thing. That does not improve memory access, okay? So when we talk about 150 gigabytes, this is a nerf. This is a nerf in computer gaming terms, okay? So that's not good that they've done that. I don't think that's excusable, and I don't like that. And so video editors, I talked about this earlier in the video, they're heavily dependent on memory bandwidth for something like rendering. Even the M3 Max base Max chip is now 300 gigabytes. You have to pay to get the M3 Max, the higher one, with 400 gigabytes, which was standard on both M2 Max chips before. So they have nuked you here. So video editors are now going to be forced, realistically, to get the higher end Apple M3 Max chip. And as we know, the MacBook Pro 14 doesn't cool it as effectively. The 16-inch does, which has a bigger chassis. So video editors, if you're really professional, you're going to be forced to buy this model for $4,000. It's rough. All right. Okay, Alan, thank you for the donation. 1 terabyte M3 Pro is only 400 away from the base M3 Max. You think that upgrade is worth it? If you're looking, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. And I'll tell you why. Alan, one, when you do a custom config, with the base M3 Max. I just want to make sure I'm getting his question right. So I'm assuming he's talking about the 14-inch. The M3 Pro, let's go back to order screen. M3 Pro. So you're talking about the one with 1 terabyte, which is here, $2,400, and it's got 18 gig of memory. It's $400 away from the M3 Max. Is he talking about 14-inch? I hope he is. If you see him update this, 14-inch, so $400. Yeah, he is. So this one gets you immediately 36 gig of memory. So that's probably worth about $200 in Apple's term. It does give you more memory bandwidth. It does give you...
He's looking for the 16.
Oh, he's looking for the 16. Okay, let's go with the 16. That's very helpful to clarify. So, okay. So we're going to go with the 16. So you're talking here 36 already. Oh, so this gives you no extra. No, I don't like it at all, because look at this. You've already got 36 gig of memory. If you upgrade to this one, you've still got 36 gig of memory. It doesn't give you the memory upgrade. And yeah, the only thing it gives you is 150 gigabytes of memory bandwidth to 300. So if you're a video editor, yes, it would be helpful, but I don't love it. For a video editor, you should be paying the extra 300 to get the 400 gigabytes of memory bandwidth and an extra 48 gig of memory. So I don't love that one, I must say. I would choose, if you're a software developer, you probably don't need that memory bandwidth, so I'd stick on the Pro chip. I don't think I don't like the M3 Max base chip this year. I don't think, last year I did like the M2 Max base chip because it had the same memory bandwidth. There was no differences in actual memory supplied. This year, for the $200 extra, you get more memory supplied and you get higher memory bandwidth. And you get 2 extra CPU cores, which you didn't last year. Okay. All right. What is the best value gaming laptop in your opinion? One of the two. Oh, actually, he could be talking 16-inch. Legion Slim 7 with AMD, probably. Oh, actually, Legion Slim 7 with AMD, that is a 16-inch gaming laptop. It caps out, by the way, at an RTX 4060 in the US. The Slim 7i with Intel has an RTX 4070. Either of those two, I would say, is the best bang for your buck gaming laptop in terms of the value you're getting. If you're looking for a cheaper gaming laptop, what do we like, guys? We've tested them all. We were testing them all today. I mean, there's Gigabyte G6, the Acer Nitro.
I do like the Nitro a lot.
Yeah, no, you like the Nitros.
I like the Nitro a lot.
Taylor here, who was a gaming tester before coming to joining the channel, likes the Nitro a lot. It's a big laptop, by the way. The Acer Nitro, just FYI, it's huge. It's a monstrous thing. It's not very portable. Okay. And then we're going to finish in 15 minutes. So, Josh, shall I buy the new MacBook Pro 14 or wait for the MacBook Air M3? I like the new MacBook Pro 14 so long as you get, and I've said this, sorry if I'm repeating myself, guys, if you get this model here, do not get the model with 8 gig of memory or spec that up with 16. You should be buying the M3 model, one of these two, and these are base models. They come with already 18 gig of memory, so it should be enough for most people. 512 gig of storage, 1 terabyte should be enough for most people. You'll probably see them, because these are base models, they go off on sale at retailers tend to put these on sale. Best Buy, Amazon, you probably should be seeing these $200 off pretty soon, especially around Black Friday, so please don't buy these tonight. As I said, I'm joking about this, but the only people who should buy these tonight, these base models, are YouTubers. Okay. There's no Windows laptops with 40 series GPUs and good battery. No, there aren't. Move on. You have to get a Mac if you want good battery. That's the end of it, pretty much. Or a very basic Windows laptop with like an Intel U, or an AMD U series processor would be great. And a big battery. Josh, why do you think App would release an expensive Pro laptop with just 8 gig of RAM? Because they're trying to rip off unsuspecting buyers who don't watch this channel. That's right. What are your thoughts on convertibles? Is it better to get a cheap laptop with the same specs and use the money to get a drawing pad? Oh, yes, I do. God, what was that? We had this really funny laptop in that's a convertible. We're talking about convertible laptops here, and it was rather to bet several times. Yeah. We won't say it out. We'll keep it for our worst laptop of the year because it was brutal. It was a convertible, guys. It was super thin, looked beautiful, got to 60 degrees Celsius on the underside. And as a convertible, you actually have to hold it, right? So you can feel the underside. It was brutal. On that note, it depends on your money. But I think, yeah, you're probably better offset, get like an iPad with a pen and then a laptop versus a convertible. I think a convertibles, particularly in the PC space, it's a pity Macs don't have them because of the hot processors. They're not power efficient. They don't last long on battery. Convertibles in the PC space, you know, for the most part, you're either lacking performance to give you decent battery life and a cool feeling convertible like the HP Spectre is like that, but it lacks performance, or it gets a little bit warm, you hear a bit of fan noise like the Yoga 9i, the convertible Yoga. I think if you can afford it, probably better to get a laptop and then a tablet for drawing. Okay. What about the 14-inch with Max? The 14-inch with the Max. This is Andreas with the upgrade to 32.6 gig of memory and just use a cooler pad or a lower power model. I don't like that. Just you should be buying the MacBook Pro 16 if you're getting the Max chip. The only reason to get it over the other one is if you want the 300 gigabytes of bandwidth. So video editors, yeah, it's going to make a difference, but video editors should be on the MacBook Pro 16 anyway. And sorry to mention, I know you guys hate when YouTubers constantly talk about video editing, but that's just the best example I can think of memory bandwidth, and that's what Apple has really cut back on this time. All right. Thoughts on a 12-inch MacBook run? This is from Eldon. Please don't buy a 12-inch MacBook. I know those models really well. They are so dated now. Please don't buy a MacBook. They're just terrible. Buy the MacBook Air 13 M1, which I bought on the channel. I know from Craigslist for like $300. That's what you should be buying. Would you recommend this over a MacBook Air for college? No, I wouldn't. If you're buying a MacBook Air, starts with 8 gig of memory, and so does the MacBook Pro 14 now, which is ridiculous that it has Pro in the title for 8 gig of memory. It's much more expensive. You don't need it. Stick with the Air M2 if you're going to buy an 8 gig of memory model, stick with the Air M2 and honestly save your money. When you leave college or at the end of college, upgrade more to a new model that probably has more memory and is better. It's just save your money, please. Any opinion on this new Snapdragon processors? Yeah, so there was in both Nvidia and Qualcomm with a Snapdragon is getting into the PC laptop space. Windows is heavily going to be, or Microsoft is heavily going to be supporting the transition to ARM-based processors, similar to what's happened on the Mac side. I find this sounds very promising because, PC laptops, Windows laptops have heavily struggled in the space for people who want a lower powered machine, and I'm referring to, let's say, mid power to low power, not full performance. PC laptops have really struggled here because Intel processors, as you know, particularly at lower wattage, are very inefficient. So they're going to feel hotter, have more fan noise, and it's annoying. When we test all these PC laptops, that's the one thing we notice. It's really, really annoying. Just feeling a laptop constantly hot and warm, loud fan noise. And I'm referring to mid-performance laptops to low-performance laptops here. High-performance laptops, Intel's still going to dominate. Same with AMD. They draw a lot of power. They're big laptops. They're still going to dominate. But, I think Qualcomm and what they're doing to bring the RISC architecture, the ARM architecture over to PC laptops is a great idea, because I think it's going to close that gap between Intel and Mac that exists right now in terms of those factors that I mentioned, heat, fan noise, etc. I think it's good, and I think more competition is good. It's good for you guys, right, to have another player in the space. So I think it's very good. I don't expect them to be competing in the high-end gaming laptops or video editing laptops or creator laptops, but certainly in the everyday laptops that you would carry if you're a student, an office worker, that kind of thing. I think it's great to have more competition. Hopefully it'll allow Windows laptops to have some of those benefits that Macs have had. All right, Alan Lowe, thank you for the donation. Previously, 16-inch Pro versions get better battery life. I'm looking at battery life performance, generally have 15 to 20x Word docs and heavy Excel use. Research and app, what would you recommend? So just to be clear, and I talked about this in my memory video, what you're describing there of that many tabs open, 15 to 20 Word docs, give me 2 seconds. You don't necessarily need, say, 38 gig of memory for that. And I say 38 because that's what these come with now, these new Macs. And apologies to look over there. That's where I've got them pulled up on screen. The way memory works is if you don't have enough memory, it's going to swap it in from disk. The modern computers, particularly Macs, have very fast storage, like disks, like NVMe drives. So it's not such a big delay if you have less memory to swap in those many documents. So that's the first thing that gets me. And I want to understand his question. Previously, 16-inch Pro versions get better battery life. True. If I'm looking at battery life performance, generally have 15-20 watts. What would you recommend as an academic? So look, if you're working mainly in documents, which I do a lot of, a 16-inch screen is obviously going to continue to be better than a 14-inch, and you're not moving that much. So I like that. I think for you, with your use case, honestly, you're pretty low performance needs. I would say, quite frankly, I would get either, honestly, an older MacBook Pro 16 and just the base model CPU, and I think 16 gig of memory, even though 16 gig of RAM is going to be fine, even though you're using all these documents, it's not like they'll be swapped in and out so quickly you won't even notice it's happening. So I think that, or if you're buying the new one on the 16-inch, which I'm showing you right now, I would probably grab the lower end one. But again, any base model, I talk about this in my video on how you should buy a Mac, which I'm going to refresh with these M3 models. These base models go on sale at retailers, so you should be looking for this to go on sale and then buy it there, or buy a refurbished one of a prior generation M2 MacBook Pro 16. For you, I'd probably get that over the M1. It is going to be a little snappier, which I think you'll like. But I think either of those two is fine. He works on the go, coffee stores. Okay, you should be buying the MacBook Pro 14 then. That's what I work off then. So that's the one you should be going for. I think for you, as I said, get a lower spec model. Don't buy the M3 with the 8 gig of memory. That's ridiculous. Either an M2 with 16 gig of memory, which is I have the 32 gig model, but I'm doing video editing off it. But the lower end one with M2 with 16 gig, or the M3 with the 18 gig, the lower end model, that's fine. Okay. We've only got 6 minutes left. Adithi says, hey, love your content so much. Thank you very much. Is 60 gig versus 8 gig iMac for gaming with my iPhone 15 Pro worth the money and for future proofing too? No, it's not. iMac for 16 gig. I mean, guys, I don't like the iMac for 16 gig. It is so expensive. I'll bring it up on screen. I just think this is a crazy pricing. I think there's good laptops that were released tonight. This, which is, I'm looking at the iMac right now, you know, once you add 16 gig here, it adds $200 to the price. You've only got 256 gig of storage. To get a 512 gig model, you're talking $1,700 plus $200 for these 16 gig. That's $1,900. It's crazy. I just don't love it. I'm sorry. I know you're saying between the memory. I just don't love the iMac at all for this pricing. Sorry. Because, and this is why, guys, I want you to be clear. The benefits of Apple's M series processors predominantly is efficiency. That means less fan noise, less heat you feel, and longer battery life. Two of those aren't really relevant in a desktop. You don't care as much about how much power you draw. You're not on battery, so that doesn't matter. You also don't care as much as heat you feel because you're on an external keyboard. You only care about the fan noise, right? So you're only getting one benefit of the M3 chip. So I don't love the iMacs because they're charging a huge amount, which is the amount you would expect to pay if you're getting all three of those benefits, but you're really only getting one of them. Okay, and we're going to finish in 4 minutes because everyone here probably wants to go home. There's a lot of nodding in the room. I'm trying to read these comments. There's a lot coming through. Yeah. Thanks for the info, Josh. What would you recommend for a computer science major? 14-inch, this is Abe's comment. For a computer science major, 14-inch M3 Pro or 16-inch M3 Pro. I prefer the bigger screen. Well, that's your answer, my friend. It's a bit more money. Of course, the 16-inch is going to be better for coding. It just is. And coding is something that you really see benefit of a larger display. But let me flip something to you. Maybe you want to get the 14-inch and just get an external monitor. That could be an option too, right? Because then you get the lighter laptop when you're traveling to college. I would do that versus get the 16. That's me personally. And as you know, I did 2 degrees in computer science, and I don't want to be hulking around a big laptop. But it depends on how you work, right? If you're mainly doing programming, like in coffee stores, and most of your coding is there, then a 16-inch laptop will help because you can bring the bigger screen with you. Otherwise, the 14. And honestly, I've coded like crazy on a 13-inch screen. A 14-inch is already fantastic. But yes, it's really up to you. If you really like a big screen and you're coding a lot on the screen in coffee stores and out about where you can't have an external monitor, get the 16. Otherwise, get the 14. Okay. If I have Intel MacBook 16 RAM, is 18 gig of RAM enough? Yes. I don't like questions like this, Andres, because your RAM usage depends on what you're doing. Okay, that's just a fact, right? With the videos we edit here on the channel, some of our bigger ones, this MacBook Pro 16, which is to my right, that one has 32 gig of memory. It hits a lot of memory problems. So it really depends on what you're doing. But for most people, yeah, it's probably going to be fine. I mean, there's going to be more difference moving from an Intel MacBook to one of these M2s or M3s than there was probably memory-wise. But it depends on your memory usage. Please watch my video on how much memory you need, because that's going to help you determine it. And for heaven's sake, folks, for Windows users, never look at memory usage in Task Manager. It is not correct for how much memory you need. Please, quick summary. Good thing. We've got 2 minutes left. Here's where I land. Okay? And I'm going to summarize exactly what we saw. The iMacs. Let's get rid of them quickly. I don't think they're worth it. Okay? And here's why. There are 3 benefits of Apple's processor: long battery life, not feeling a lot of heat. These M series processors, long battery life, not feeling a lot of heat, and no fan noise. In a computer like this, 2 of them are irrelevant, right? You're powered in, so you don't care about battery life, and feeling heat, you're touching a keyboard, so you don't even feel heat to begin with. Only fan noise benefits. But the prices here are as though you're paying for all 3 benefits, and also you're only getting 8 gig of memory, which is a disgrace, especially at this price, $1,700 for a 512 gig of memory model. And to upgrade to 16 gig of memory, it's $1,900. There are so much better things that you can do with $1,900 than buy this computer. I don't like it. Next one, let's go to the Macs, okay? MacBook Pros. What they've done is they've replaced the MacBook Pro 13 with the MacBook Pro 14, and they've introduced this model with the M3 chip. MacBook Pro 13 used to have an M2 chip, not an M2 Pro, so similar thing there, but what they've done is to replace the 13 with the 14. That's basically what they've done. But what they have done is they've kept the 8 gig of memory of the base models of that one, which in 2023 at these prices, $1,600 to $1,800, is a absolute disgrace. Even if you get this model with $200 off, which a lot of resellers will sell it off, particularly over Black Friday and places like that, it's not worth it. And once you upgrade this to more memory, honestly, you may as well be going up to the M3 Pro one. So I don't like these ones. The M3 Pros, 14-inch M3 Pros, I do like them. You've got faster CPU performance. You've got other graphics benefits. They now come stock with one extra CPU core here, which used to be 10 core and 12 core. You get 2 extra gig of memory, which is good. And then obviously it's a little bit, each of these cores are faster than they were before. They talked about that in the video. I do like this. I think you get more for the money. And the XDR display is 600 nits for standard definition content. So I do think these are better than they were yesterday. I do like these. I think these are worth buying. The only negatives here is these used to have 200 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, which is very important for video rendering and things like that. Now they only have 150. So video editors, I'd be a little bit nervous about these. It's gonna be pretty rough. But for programmers, people like that, I think these are great. They're portable. I think these are a good step up from what they were before. You get the extra memory, faster processor, pricing is the same. I would try to buy these base models. I've talked about this. Please watch my video on MacBook buying advice. Don't buy custom configs of Macs. They're so expensive. It's ridiculous. I'd rather you save the money and upgrade a newer Mac more frequently. But my only thing on these two, which I do like both of these are base models. These are the models that retailers often have on their rotating sales. Do not buy these two models tonight. Wait till Black Friday. You're gonna find them $200 off. You guys can get angry at me if I was wrong there, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be right there. The only people who should be buying these two tonight is me and Max Tech, right? And maybe Marquez or a couple of other people who are gonna review laptops. No, and he's probably getting them free, but no one else should be buying these tonight because they're gonna go on sale as base models. So I don't like, and one of the other reasons I don't want you to upgrade these as well is because A, as I said, the upgrades are ridiculously expensive and you should be saving for your next one, and B, the Max chips in the 14-inch model historically have not been able to be cooled properly as well as the 16-inch model. So if you're going up to a Max chip, I'm talking about the M3 Max chip, you probably want to get the 16. Over to the 16-inch. In the 16-inch, I really like, the Pro chips are fine for, say, software developers who don't need huge memory bandwidth. I think they're fine. I do like that you've got more memory than what you had last year. Again, it's a base model. Wait till it's on sale at Black Friday and something like that. I do like this base model for coders. I think it's good, or with 1 terabyte of storage. If that's a custom config though, that means you can buy it tonight because custom configs rarely go on sale at retailers. And then for those who need high memory bandwidth, the only one right now that has 400 gigabytes of memory bandwidth is the highest end one of the M3 Max. This one no longer has 400 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, it only has 300. I do think you should buy this one, the M3 Max, the higher end, over this one. There's many reasons of what this had. So you've got, before you didn't get extra CPU cores, you do now. You get extra memory, right, in the stock. And also you have extra memory bandwidth. So I think there's a bit more of a reason now to buy the higher end M3 Max. Before they were $100 pricing difference, so it wasn't like this, but they both had the same memory. They both had the same CPU cores. Now there's a lot more in it to get this one, and they both had the same memory bandwidth. So I think this one I like too, but again, you might want to wait to see if you can get it on sale around Black Friday because it is a base model. That's what I think. That's it, guys. Have a great evening or morning if you're in India or wherever else you may be. And that's all for us. We've got lots of 16-inch content coming. Please share the channel with anyone you know, particularly as we're going into a massive laptop buying season with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then Christmas. We've got all the 16-inch laptop videos are coming starting Monday next week. And looking forward to speaking to you guys again. I'll catch you later.